The day my father died, I thought I'd lost everything. Standing in the rain at his funeral, watching them lower his casket into the ground, I couldn't have imagined that losing him was just the beginning of a battle I never saw coming. My name is Michael, and this is the story of how I became the villain in my own family's eyes, all because I refused to let them erase the last piece of my father that remained. Dad had been sick for 2 years. Lung cancer, the doctors said. Probably from his years working construction before safety regulations caught up. Those final months were brutal. I moved back home from college to help care for him, watching this mountain of a man who built our house with his own hands slowly fade into someone I barely recognized. But even at the end, even when he could barely speak, he made sure I understood one thing crystal clear. "This house," he wheezed, gripping my hand with what little strength remained. "This house is yours, Michael. I built it for our family. Promise me you'll take care of it." I promised. Of course I promised. How could I not? That house wasn't just walls and a roof. It was 23 years of memories carved into every corner. The kitchen cabinets he'd handcrafted from reclaimed oak. The back deck where we'd spent countless summer evenings grilling and laughing. The workshop in the garage where he taught me everything from changing oil to building furniture. Every inch of that place had his fingerprints on it, literally and figuratively. The will reading happened 2 weeks after the funeral. Mom sat across from me in the lawyer's office, her new husband Steve's arm around her shoulders. They'd been married for just 8 months when Dad died. Steve had 2 kids from his previous marriage, Brad, 17, and Ashley, 15. They'd moved into our house 6 months ago, when Dad's condition worsened and Mom said she needed the extra help. I hadn't liked it then, but I'd bitten my tongue for Dad's sake. "To my beloved son, Michael James Patterson," the lawyer read. Adjusting his glasses, "I leave the house at 1847 Maple Grove Lane, along with all its contents, with the stipulation that your mother, Helen Patterson Morrison, shall have lifetime residency rights should she choose to exercise them." I saw Mom's face tighten. Steve's jaw clenched. But the house was mine. Dad had made sure of that. The first few months after Dad's death, I tried to keep the peace. I was grieving, Mom was grieving, and I figured we all needed time to adjust. I stayed in my childhood bedroom, the one with the built-in shelves Dad had installed when I was 12 and obsessed with collecting model airplanes. Steve's kids had taken over the guest room in Dad's old office. I didn't love it, but I told myself it was temporary. But then the changes started. It began small. Steve replaced Dad's old leather recliner in the living room with some modern monstrosity from IKEA. "That old thing was falling apart," he said when I protested. "Besides, it smelled like cigarettes." That recliner was where Dad read me bedtime stories, where he sat during his chemo treatments, too weak to make it upstairs, where he watched his last Christmas with us. But I swallowed my anger. "Pick your battles," I told myself. Then Ashley decided she needed to update the downstairs bathroom. Out went the vintage tile Dad had salvaged from a demolished hotel in the 1972nd. In came generic white subway tile from Home Depot. "It's so much brighter now," Mom chirped, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. Brad took over the garage workshop. Dad's carefully organized tools, some passed down from his own father, were shoved into boxes and piled in the corner. Brad's drum set took center stage. The workbench where Dad and I had built my Pinewood Derby car, where we'd fixed countless bikes and built that treehouse in the backyard, became a storage space for amplifiers and music equipment. Every protest I made was met with the same response. "Michael, we're a blended family now. We all need to compromise." Compromise. That's what they called systematically erasing every trace of my father from the house he'd built. The breaking point came 6 months after Dad died. I came home from my part-time job to find contractors in the kitchen. They were ripping out the cabinets, those beautiful, handcrafted oak cabinets Dad had spent 3 months perfecting. "What the hell is going on?" I demanded. Steve appeared, looking pleased with himself. "Surprise, we're modernizing the kitchen. Those old cabinets were so dated. Dark wood is out, white shaker style is in. Those cabinets were built by my father, and they've served their purpose," Steve said, his tone patronizing. "But it's time to move forward. Your mother agrees." I found Mom in the backyard, avoiding the destruction. "How could you let him do this?" I asked, my voice breaking. She wouldn't meet my eyes. "Steve says it will increase the home value. And it's hard, Michael. Everything in this house reminds me of your father. Maybe some changes aren't bad." That night, I heard them talking in their bedroom. Steve's voice carried through the walls. "The kid needs to understand that this is our house now. Your husband is gone, Helen. I'm your family now." The next morning, I made my first mistake. I tried to be reasonable. I sat down with Mom and Steve at the kitchen table, or what was left of it, since they'd already ordered a new one, and attempted to have an adult conversation. "Look," I said, keeping my voice steady, "I understand you want to make the house feel like home for everyone, but this is still my house. Dad left it to me, and I should have a say in any major renovations." Steve leaned back in his chair, that condescending smile playing at his lips. "Your house? You're 21 years old, Michael. You work part-time at a hardware store. You couldn't afford the property taxes on this place, let alone the mortgage, which, by the way, your mother and I have been paying." "There is no mortgage," I said. "Dad paid it off 3 years ago. Utilities then. Maintenance. Food. You've been living here rent-free, eating our food?" "Steve." Mom interrupted softly, but he held up a hand. "No, Helen, he needs to hear this. Michael, your father might have left you this house on paper, but your mother has lifetime residency rights. That means she lives here as long as she wants. And as her husband, I live here too. My children live here. We're the ones maintaining this place, paying for everything. So while you might technically own it, This is our home. It's my home too, I said, feeling heat rise in my face. Is it? Steve challenged. Because from where I'm sitting, you're acting more like a tenant who thinks he's the landlord. Your mother and I have been very patient with you, Michael. We've let you stay here while you figure out your life. But if you're going to make everyone miserable with your constant complaints about every little changes, you're gutting my father's kitchen. We're updating an outdated kitchen, Steve corrected. And if you can't see the difference, then maybe you need to think about whether this living arrangement is working for anyone. The threat hung in the air between us. Mom reached for my hand. Michael, honey, no one's saying you should leave. We're a family. We need to find a way to move forward together. But I could see it in Steve's eyes. He wanted me gone. In his mind, I was the only thing standing between him and complete control of what he saw as his house. That afternoon, while they were out, I went to Dad's old filing cabinet in the basement, one of the few things they hadn't touched yet. I found all the documentation about the house. The deed, the will, the lawyer's contact information. I also found something else. A letter from Dad, addressed to me, dated just a week before he died. Michael, it read in his shaky handwriting. If you're reading this, then you're probably going through the files, which means things aren't going well. I know your mother. I know she'll remarry quickly. She doesn't do well alone. I tried to protect the house for you, son. It's not just property. It's our family's history. Every nail, every board, every brick has a story. Don't let anyone take that from you. But also remember, sometimes the hardest battles are with the people we love. Be strong, but be smart. The house will outlast all of us. Make sure when it does, it still tells our story. Love, Dad. I tried to honor Dad's words about being smart. I really did. For the next 3 months, I documented everything. Every change they made without consulting me. Every piece of Dad's work they destroyed. I took photos of the kitchen demolition. Kept receipts I found in the trash. Recorded dates and times. I wasn't sure what I'd do with it all, but something told me I'd need it eventually. The house became unrecognizable. The warm, craftsman-style home Dad had built was turning into something out of a contemporary design magazine. Sterile, soulless. Steve hired contractors to paint over the exposed wooden beams in the living room. Too dark, he said. They were painted white. The built-in bookshelves in the hallway where Dad had displayed his collection of first-edition novels were ripped out to open up the space. But the worst came on a Thursday in October. I came home to find them in my bedroom, my childhood bedroom. Brad and Ashley were pulling my model airplanes off the built-in shelves while Steve unscrewed them from the wall. "What are you doing?" I shouted, dropping my work bag. "Brad needs a bigger room," Steve said matter-of-factly. "He's got all that music equipment. You can move into the office. The office is half the size of this room. Then maybe it's time you found your own place," Steve suggested, not even looking at me. I looked at Mom, who stood in the doorway. "Mom, please." She wrung her hands. "Michael, you're an adult now. And Brad is still in high school. He needs the space for his studies and his music. It's just a room." "It's not just a room," I exploded. "Dad built these shelves for me. This is my room. In my house. Your house that you contribute nothing to," Steve shot back. "I'm done with this entitled attitude, Michael. You want to claim ownership? Start acting like an owner. Pay for something. Anything. Or accept that the people actually maintaining this place get to make decisions about it." That night, they moved my things into the office while I was at work. When I got home, Brad was already setting up his drums in my room. The shelves were gone, tossed in the backyard like garbage. I salvaged what pieces I could, storing them in the basement, but most were destroyed in the removal. I called my best friend, Tom, that night. "Maybe you should just move out," he suggested. "Get an apartment. Let them have the house for now. You'll inherit it fully when you're mom." But I couldn't. Walking away felt like betrayal, like abandoning the last piece of Dad I had left. Plus, a horrible thought had crept into my mind. What if Steve convinced Mom to change her will? What if they found some legal loophole? If I left, I might never get back in. So I stayed in that cramped office, sleeping on a twin bed, surrounded by boxes of my belongings that wouldn't fit. I listened to Brad practice drums at midnight in my old room. I watched Steve park his boat in the garage where Dad's workshop used to be. I bit my tongue when Ashley painted the hallway purple because beige is so boring. But I also started researching property law, tenant rights, owner rights. I spoke with a lawyer friend of Tom's father, off the record. I learned about eviction processes, about what lifetime residency actually meant, about my rights as the deed holder. "You have more power than you think," the lawyer told me. "Lifetime residency doesn't mean they can destroy your property. And it certainly doesn't extend to her husband's children. If you wanted to, you could make things very difficult for them." "I don't want to hurt my mother," I said. "Then they'll keep walking all over you," he replied simply. The holidays were a nightmare. Steve invited his entire extended family for Thanksgiving without asking me. 23 people in the house, and Steve introduced me as Helen's son, who's staying with us for a while. Not the homeowner. Not even really part of the family. Just someone staying with them. His brother actually asked me, "So what's it like living with your mom and her new family? Must be awkward at your age." "I own the house," I said flatly. The man laughed. Actually laughed. "Sure you though, kid. Christmas was worse. They redecorated everything. Dad's vintage ornaments, collected over 40 years, were boxed up and replaced with a matching set from Target. The tree topper an angel Dad's mother had made by hand was swapped for a generic star. When I tried to hang Dad's stocking, Steve took it down. "We're trying to create new traditions," he said. "Holding on to the past isn't healthy." I hung it in my cramped office instead. next to the photo of Dad and me from our last Christmas together. January brought a new development. I overheard Steve on the phone with a real estate agent. Yeah, we're thinking of selling in maybe a year or two. Once we get it fully renovated, the bones are good, just needs modernizing. Selling. They were planning to sell my house. I confronted them that evening. You can't sell the house. I own it. Steve barely looked up from his tablet. Your mother has lifetime residency rights. We've consulted with a lawyer. There are ways to force a sale if we prove that maintaining the property is becoming a financial burden. Or we could claim that the living situation has become untenable due to family conflict. You mean the conflict you're creating? I mean the conflict caused by an adult child who refuses to accept his mother's new family, Steve countered. Judge might see that differently than you think. Mom tried to mediate. No one's selling anything. Steve's just exploring options for the future. But I could see the writing on the wall. They were going to push me out, one way or another. Then they'd either force a sale or wait until I gave up and signed over my rights just to be free of them. That's when I decided, no more Mr. Nice Guy. I started small. I changed the locks on the basement door and made it clear that area was off limits. My property. My rules. Steve was furious, but the lawyer I'd consulted assured me I was within my rights. I also started charging Brad rent for the garage space where he kept his music equipment. Just a nominal amount, but it established something important. I was the landlord. Then I got bolder. When they hired contractors to renovate the master bathroom, I met them at the door. No work can be done without the owner's written permission, I told them, showing the deed. And I don't give permission. Steve threatened to sue me. I told him to go ahead. You're being ridiculous, Mom cried. We're just trying to make the house nice. You're trying to erase Dad, I corrected. And then sell my house. I won't let that happen. The war had officially begun. February turned our house into a battlefield. Every day brought new skirmishes. Steve would schedule contractors. I'd send them away. He'd try to throw out more of Dad's things from the attic. I'd padlock it. The tension was so thick you could cut it with a knife. The extended family got involved. Mom's sister called me selfish. Steve's mother left me a voicemail calling me a spoiled brat who doesn't appreciate what Steve has done for your family. Even my cousin Sarah, who I'd been close with growing up, texted me. Just let them be happy. Your dad would want your mom to be happy, would he? Would Dad want his workshop turned into boat storage? His handcrafted cabinets in a dumpster? His legacy erased bit by bit until nothing remained? The pivotal moment came on a cold Tuesday in March. I returned from work to find my office. My tiny relegated space had been cleared out. My belongings were in boxes in the garage. Ashley had moved in. I need a proper room for studying, she announced. Brad's drums are too loud. Where am I supposed to sleep? I asked, incredulous. Steve gestured to the basement. There's a couch down there. Should be good enough. The basement. The unfinished, unheated basement. They wanted me sleeping in the basement of my own house. No, I said simply. No? Steve raised an eyebrow. No. Ashley, get your things out of my room. Now. It's not your room anymore, she said, that teenage sneer in her voice. Every room in this house is my room, I replied, my voice deadly calm. You're all here at my discretion, and that discretion is wearing very, very thin. Steve stepped forward, trying to use his height to intimidate me. Listen here, you little... No, you listen. I cut him off. I've been patient. I've been accommodating. I've watched you destroy piece after piece of my father's work. But this ends now. You want to live here? Fine, Mom has that right. But you will respect my property. You will follow my rules, and you will stop trying to push me out of my own house. Or what? Steve challenged. Or I'll exercise my rights as the property owner and have you removed for tenant harassment. Mom gasped. Michael, you wouldn't. You couldn't. Try me. That night, they moved Ashley back to the guest room, but I knew this was far from over. Steve's look promised retribution, and he was a man who kept his promises. The retaliation was swift and petty. They started eating dinner without telling me when it was ready. My laundry would mysteriously end up on the basement floor, still wet. My mail disappeared. Brad would practice drums specifically when he knew I was trying to sleep before early shifts. But the worst part was Mom. She became cold, distant. She'd look through me like I wasn't there. When I tried to talk to her alone, she'd make excuses to leave. Steve had turned her against me completely, convinced her that I was the villain trying to tear apart her new happiness. I started eating meals in my car. I installed a lock on my door, which led to another fight. I put up security cameras in the common areas, which led to Steve calling me paranoid and controlling. You're making everyone miserable, he said one evening. Is that what you want? For your mother to be miserable? I want my father's house to remain my father's house, I replied. Your father is dead, Steve shouted. He's gone, and holding on to this house like some shrine won't bring him back. I know he's dead, I said quietly. I watched him die. I held his hand while he took his last breath, and I promised him I'd take care of this house. So that's what I'm doing. April arrived with what felt like an olive branch. Mom knocked on my door one evening, alone for once. Her eyes were red from crying. Can we talk? She asked. I let her in. She sat on my bed, looking smaller and older than I remembered. I miss him too, she said quietly. Your father. I miss him every day. Then why are you letting Steve erase him? She was quiet for a long moment. Because it hurts too much, she finally admitted. Everything in this house is him. Every corner, every room. I see him everywhere, and it's paralyzing, Michael. Steve makes me feel like I can move forward, like I can live again instead of just existing in a museum of memories. But those memories are all I have left of him, I said, my voice breaking. I know, honey, I know. She took my hand. Maybe. Maybe we can find a compromise? Some rooms can stay the way they were. The basement workshop could be restored. We could. Mom, I interrupted gently. We both know Steve won't compromise. He wants me gone. He wants to sell this house and buy something that's theirs instead of ours. She didn't deny it. He thinks it would be healthier. A fresh start for everyone. And what do you think? She squeezed my hand. I think I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of the tension. I just want peace. So do I said. But not at the cost of Dad's last wishes. She left without resolving anything, but something had shifted. The next few days were quieter. Steve seemed to be regrouping, planning his next move. I should have known it was the calm before the storm. The storm arrived in the form of a letter from a lawyer. Steve and Mom were filing for a partition sale, a legal procedure to force the sale of property when co-owners can't agree. They were claiming that the living situation had become hostile and that maintaining the property was financially unsustainable with the current arrangement. But here's where they made their mistake. Mom didn't actually co-own the house. She had residency rights, not ownership. Their lawyer had either misunderstood the situation or Steve had misrepresented it. My lawyer, I'd officially hired one, now laughed when he saw the filing. They don't have a leg to stand on. Residency rights don't equal ownership rights. They can't force you to sell. So what can I do, I asked. Well, he said, leaning back in his chair. You could evict everyone except your mother. Her husband and his children have no legal right to be there without your permission. And if I wanted to evict everyone? He studied me carefully. Lifetime residency can be revoked under certain circumstances, if they're damaging the property, creating a hostile living environment, or violating reasonable rules set by the owner. Document everything. Build your case. When you're ready, we can file. I went home and looked at what they'd done to Dad's house. The stark white walls where warm wood used to be. The modern fixtures replacing handcrafted details. The soulless, magazine-ready spaces that used to hold our family's story. That night, I made my decision. I spent 2 weeks preparing. Documentation of every unauthorized change. Photos of damaged property. Records of harassment. My lawyer helped me draft a formal notice. On May 1st, I presented it to them at dinner. This is a formal notice of eviction, I announced, placing copies in front of Steve, Brad, and Ashley. You have 30 days to vacate the premises. The silence was deafening. Then chaos erupted. You can't do this, Steve roared, jumping to his feet. I can and I am, I replied calmly. You have no legal right to be in my house without my permission, and I'm revoking that permission. Mom! Ashley shrieked. He can't kick us out. We live here. Mom was white as a sheet. Michael, please. Your notice is different, Mom, I said, sliding her a separate paper. This is a warning about violations of your residency agreement. The destruction of property, the hostile environment, the attempted illegal sale. If these behaviors continue, I'll have grounds to revoke your lifetime residency as well. But I'm giving you a choice. Stay with them and risk losing your rights, or stay here and abide by the rules I set as the homeowner. You're insane, Brad said. You can't kick out your own mother. I'm not. I'm kicking out the people who've spent the last year destroying my father's legacy. Mom can stay if she chooses to respect that legacy. Steve lunged at me, but Mom grabbed his arm. Don't, she said quietly. He'll have you arrested. She was right. I'd already informed the police about the situation, explaining that I might need their assistance with a legal eviction. You poisonous little bastard, Steve hissed. After everything I've done for this family, you mean destroying my father's work? Stealing my bedroom? Trying to force me into the basement? Planning to sell my house? Yes, Steve. Thank you so much for all you've done. The next 30 days were hell. Steve tried everything. He called my employer, trying to get me fired. He posted on Facebook about his mentally unstable stepson who was making his family homeless. He had his entire family blow up my phone with threats and pleas. Mom's family was worse. My grandmother called me crying, saying I was killing my mother. My aunts organized an intervention, ambushing me at work to tell me I needed therapy for my unhealthy attachment to the past. Even our church got involved. Pastor Williams invited me to his office for a conversation about forgiveness and family. I sat through an hour of him explaining how God would want me to embrace my new family, how honoring thy mother meant accepting her choices. What about honoring thy father, I asked. He didn't have a good answer for that. The social media campaign was brutal. Steve's daughter Ashley was particularly vicious, posting photos of me with captions like, "This is the face of someone who would make his own family homeless, and imagine being so bitter that you'd kick out your grieving mother's support system." I lost friends. I was uninvited from my cousin's wedding. My phone buzzed constantly with messages calling me heartless, selfish, cruel, but I also received unexpected support. Mr. Henderson, our elderly neighbor, stopped me one day. "Your father would be proud," he said quietly. "I watched him build that house. Watched him pour his soul into every board. What they've done to it, it's a disgrace." Tom stood by me too. "Everyone calling you the villain? They didn't watch your dad dying while Steve measured for new curtains. With 1 week left before the eviction date, they played their final card. Mom's health. I came home to find an ambulance in the driveway. Mom was being loaded on a stretcher, pale and clutching her chest. Steve was right beside her, the picture of the concerned husband. "Your mother had a panic attack," he told me coldly. "The stress you're causing might literally kill her." At the hospital, the doctor confirmed it was a severe anxiety attack, not a heart issue. But the message was clear. Look what you're doing to your mother. Mom's sister cornered me in the waiting room. She's in the hospital because of you. How can you live with yourself? She's in the hospital because her husband has convinced her that respecting my father's memory is betrayal, I shot back. Your father is dead. Let him go. Would you let Uncle Robert go? I asked, referring to her late husband. If someone came into your house and threw away all his things, painted over the mural he made, ripped out the garden he planted, would you just let him go? She didn't answer. Mom came home the next day with medication for anxiety and strict orders to avoid stress. Steve used this like a weapon. If you go through with this eviction, you could literally kill your mother, he said. Is your pride worth that? Is this house worth losing her too? For a moment. Just a moment. I wavered. Then I went down to the basement and found the box I'd been saving. Inside were pieces of the shelves Dad built for my room. On one board, barely visible, were pencil marks my height measurements from age 5 to 18. Dad had marked them all, adding little notes. Michael, age 7, lost first tooth today. Michael, age 10, Little League champions. Michael, age 13, tough year, but getting taller. They'd thrown this away like it was garbage. The eviction stands, I told Steve. 3 days before the deadline, Mom made her choice. She came to my room with tears streaming down her face. I'm leaving with them, she said. I can't choose between you and them. But if I stay here, Steve will leave me, and I can't be alone. I just can't. You're choosing them over Dad's memory. Over me. I'm choosing not to be alone, she whispered. I'm weak, Michael. I know I'm weak. Your father was my strength, and without him, Steve isn't him, but he's something. He's someone. And I need someone. You have me, I said, my voice breaking. You're my son, not my partner. And right now, you're so consumed with preserving the past that you can't see you're destroying our future. Our future? Or your future with Steve? She didn't answer. She just kissed my forehead and left. The next morning, I woke to find them loading a moving truck. Steve supervised while Brad and Ashley carried boxes. Mom sat in the car, not watching, not helping, just staring straight ahead. Neighbors came out to watch. Some shook their heads at me in disgust. Others just looked sad. Mrs. Patterson from across the street actually spat in my direction. As the truck pulled away, Steve stopped beside me. You won. You got your haunted house all to yourself. Hope it keeps you warm at night. It will, I said simply. Mom didn't say goodbye. She didn't even look at me. The house felt enormous after they left. Every sound echoed. Every room felt hollow. For 3 days, I just walked through it, cataloging the damage. The destroyed kitchen, the painted-over beams, the holes in walls where shelves had been ripped out, the purple hallway, the modern bathrooms. It was like looking at a corpse wearing my father's clothes. But then I got to work. I started with the workshop. I moved Steve's boat out and began restoring Dad's tool organization. Every hammer back on its outlined spot. Every screwdriver in its designated drawer. It took a week. But when I finished, I stood in the doorway and could almost hear Dad saying, "Measure twice. Cut once. Michael." The kitchen was next. Insurance covered some of the damage from the unauthorized renovations. I found a craftsman who specialized in restoration. When I showed him photos of Dad's original cabinets, his eyes lit up. "This is beautiful work. Your father was a true artisan. Can you match it?" "I can try." Piece by piece, room by room, I began bringing the house back. Not exactly as it was. Some things were too damaged, too far gone. But I honored the spirit of what Dad had built. I found reclaimed wood to replace the painted beams. I hunted through architectural salvage yards for period-appropriate fixtures. I even found similar vintage tiles to the ones Ashley had ripped out of the bathroom. The community response was split. Half the town thought I was a monster who chose a house over his family. The church officially expressed concern about my actions. I was asked not to attend services for a while to avoid disruption, but others understood. Mr. Henderson brought over photos from when Dad was building the house, offering details about original choices. Tom helped me rebuild the shelves for my bedroom, using the salvaged pieces as templates. My old shop teacher, Mr. Daniels, volunteered to help restore the built-in bookcases. "Your dad was one of my best students," he said, watching them destroy his work. It was criminal. Mom called once, 3 months after they left. Her voice was small, tired. "How's the house?" she asked. "Getting better. I'm restoring the kitchen." "That's good." A pause. Steve and I separated. My heart jumped, but I kept my voice steady. "I'm sorry to hear that." He said, "I chose you. That by not fighting the eviction harder, by not standing up to you, I chose you over him." "Did you?" "I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe I just chose not to fight anymore." Another pause. "I drive by sometimes. I see you working on the porch, fixing the lattice. You look like him. Like your father, working on the house." "Mom, you can come home." No, she cut me off. "Not yet. Maybe not ever. That house. You were right. It's his house. It'll always be his house. And maybe that's how it should be. But I need to find my own place now. Somewhere that isn't haunted by who I used to be. I love you, Mom. I know. I love you too. And Michael? He would be proud. Your father. He'd be proud of what you're doing." She hung up before I could respond. "It's been a year now. The house is almost fully restored. I documented everything, before and after photos. I even started a blog about restoration and preservation, which has somehow gained a following. People send me messages about their own fights to preserve family homes, family legacies. Steve's family still hates me. His kids started a rumor that I'm mentally unstable, living alone in a murder house. Mom's family barely speaks to me. I wasn't invited to Thanksgiving or Christmas. My grandmother passed away without forgiving me for breaking the family. But every morning, I have coffee in Dad's restored workshop. Every evening, I sit on the deck he built, watching the sunset through the trees he planted. The walls hold our memories again. The pencil marks on the doorframe, the initials he carved into a beam when I was born, the handprint in the concrete of the garage floor mine at age 4, his beside it. People ask if it was worth it. Worth losing my mother, my extended family, my reputation in the community. Worth being the villain in everyone's story. I think about Dad, about his calloused hands carefully crafting each cabinet door, about him teaching me to use a level, to respect the wood, to build something that lasts, about his final words. Promise me you'll take care of it. Yes, it was worth it. The house stands as he built it, as he intended it. It tells our story, not Steve's. It holds our history, not their erasure. Every board, every nail, every brick whispers the same truth. Some things are worth fighting for, even if you have to fight alone. I'm not the hero of this story. I know that. I'm the one who chose a house over his mother's happiness. I'm the one who made his family homeless. I'm the one who couldn't let go of the past. But I'm also the son who kept his promise. The one who refused to let his father's legacy be destroyed. The one who understood that sometimes being the villain in everyone else's story means being the hero in your own. Last week, I found something while renovating the attic. Behind a loose board was an envelope with my name on it, in Dad's handwriting. Inside was a photo of him as a young man, standing in front of the empty lot where the house would be built. On the back, he'd written, "Michael, every man needs something worth defending." For me, it was this house and the family I'd build within it. One day, you'll understand that the walls don't make the home, but they hold the story. And stories, son, are all we leave behind. Keep telling ours. Dad, I framed it and hung it in the restored kitchen, right where his old cabinets stand proud again. Every morning when I make breakfast, I see it and remember. I'm not just living in a house. I'm living in a story. Our story. And I'll keep telling it, keep protecting it, even if I have to tell it alone. Because that's what you do for the people you love, even after they're gone. Especially after they're gone. That's what makes you the keeper of legacies, the guardian of memories, the protector of what matters. Even if it makes you the villain, especially if it makes you the villain.